when I got my first lawsuit, just like my heart was just palpitating. We were losing tens of thousands of pounds every single month. If I don't do a massive campaign here, we're going under. And none of the team knew this. So I used to have this name called Alice. Alice at RNT Fitness.
I remember her.
It was just me on a different email trying to make us look bigger than we were. Breaking up with my business partner, that's pretty tough. We were best friends before going into business. We had one employee just went completely AWOL. 2 months later, I sent a cease and desist because he was doing some I remember I was like, all right, I need a big campaign for January. So we came up with the Great Reset campaign. We filled up a 250 person intake. For the most part, I'd say 80% of my role now is leadership and providing the random crazy ideas that keeps things moving forward. Most of the team is actually more of an operator mindset. That's exactly what you want, a well-oiled machine, built systems in place, processes. That makes it much more enjoyable as well, because you don't always feel like some person leaving away from all chaos and all hell breaking loose.
You are welcoming me back onto the podcast. However, this time it's in a bit of a different light. So we're coming up to 8 years in business, and you obviously started the business 8 years ago, and your 33rd birthday, it's all coming up. So we thought we'd do something a little bit different, where we're going to have a bit of a conversation about you, the business, how it all started, and just where things are going. So thought it would be nice just to hear a bit of background and a bit more on you. I obviously know a lot of this, and I think I'm good to get the interview going because I feel like I know you best. So let's get started.
Cool.
Okay, so I was thinking, let's go firstly from business perspective. So you set up RNT 8 years ago, or coming up to 8 years ago, and things were a lot different then than they are now. So what was life like with business 8 years ago?
So my life or the business?
Both.
So 8 years ago was obviously before I met you.
Yep.
So that was a big difference. I was single. I was living at home. And I started the business really feeling like I had nothing to lose. I think that's like the biggest sort of feeling I had when I reflect back. I remember, so I actually started RNT with a business partner, and we split about a year in, and we can kind of maybe come on to that in sort of brief overview if you'd like to. But I remember before we set it up, we were at the gym. We used to personal train together. I said to him, because he asked me the day before, hey, could you come up with some financial projections for the year? I said, great, because it's this whole idea of like, right, we've got a fairly stable-ish PT income. You know, we're making decent wage for a personal trainer. You know, do you want to take this plunge and go into the online world? This was now, we were planning this in 2016, very different world back then, where online training was a thing, but it was nowhere near as big of a thing now. So he asked me to do some financial projections. So I kind of went home, did this spreadsheet, and I came in the next day and I said, look, I got this spreadsheet and I got the numbers. He said, he came in like really excited. Mm-hmm. I said, let's go into the staff room. And he was really excited to hear the numbers. And I said, look, I think we're going to make 11 grand each. And he was like, what do you mean, 11 grand a month each? Or 11? I said, no, 11 grand total, 11 grand for the year each. So about 22K as a business. And he's like, what do you mean? Like, this doesn't make any sense. Like, why would you only make that? And I said, look, based on this many clients, this much per month, what I think would be a good target. Because I had nothing to benchmark off. There wasn't like really I didn't really have anyone to model against, if that makes sense. Like there was no one for me to think, oh yeah, these people have built the business that I want. Let's just model it on that. I was just kind of plucking numbers out of thin air. I was really excited by these numbers. I was thinking, this is great. Like we can do this, and then everything else is a bonus. So he was obviously like, very shocked to hear this. And I was just kind of the mindset of that'll kind of cover my living expenses. I had around like £20,000 saved up from being a personal trainer for 5 years. So I had like a good chunk of saving that I'd made from just living at home and all these sorts of things. And I thought, well, I'm living at home, I'm single, I haven't got kids. I've got really low overheads in my lifestyle. Like I don't really spend much money. If I make 1 grand a month for the first year, like I'll be okay with that. And I also had the savings. So for me, it was just like, let's just see what happens. The only risk was obviously losing that stable income that we built. But for me, I just, if I look back and think, well, why did I take the plunge? I think I'm okay with a bit of risk. I think I've learned that I'm okay if there's some risk involved. And for me, I always think the downside is like, well, what's the worst that can happen? We just go back to going back to the gym floor. That's the worst thing that can happen, is you just go back on the gym floor as a personal trainer. Best thing is we've got a business that works, and more than anything, we've got location freedom, which is what I really, really craved at the time. So for me, that location freedom of not being tied to an appointment and off the gym floor was more important than anything. So for me, that if I could be location free and earning £1,000 a month, I was pretty happy.
Nice. Because I know you used to travel in a lot. Your hours were kind of...
I was spending 6 days a week traveling into London. I was basically commuting 12 and a half to 15 hours a week. So basically spending one waking day a week on the train, which is just crazy when I think back to it. And I couldn't, every time I go on a train now, especially if it's during rush hour, which is very rare, but if we ever do, I just think, I can't believe this used to be in my life. And I couldn't imagine anything worse than sitting on a train during rush hour, commuting an hour and a half each way into work.
Yeah, I mean, you always say that to me when we're on the train. It's like, I just can't imagine doing this every single day when we're on the train.
And that was a big thing. And that was a big thing for me. It's like, I remember going on the train. I did it 5 years in and out of London. And I remember thinking, I don't know how long I can do this for. Like, I was only mid-20s. I was thinking, luckily I had that like sort of thinking in the future of like, what do I want my life to be? And it was definitely not being on a train for this long. And I think because I saw my dad do it. My dad did it for, I think, 40 years. He did the whole corporate commute for 40 years. I remember thinking, I couldn't think of anything worse. And that was a big driver of me thinking, I want to get away from being a personal trainer, because in London, if you're not in the city of London, you're kind of wasting your time, because in the suburbs, you're not really going to be charging premium ticket prices. And you really want to be charging premium for people to stay with you for long term. So for me, it was like, you're either in the city of London or you're not. And that meant a commute, which I didn't want to do. And I didn't want to live like right into London either, because I wasn't making enough to do that. Well,
you mentioned the hours, the commute, plus the hours you're actually working.
Yeah.
How did that compare to when you're actually starting up the business? Because people have these ideas, they want to start up a business, and it does look all glamorous from what you see online, social media, podcasts, you hear all this stuff about business. But in reality, from what I've seen, it's very different, or it can be very different to that.
Yeah, ironically, like I thought I'd be having more freedom. I actually had less. So I came into this thing and because what happened is, whilst I didn't really care about, I felt financially okay going into it, if that makes sense. Like I didn't worry about, I need to pay the bills. That was not really a thing, but I was all in, and I was just like, I want to make this work. Like I want to make RNT a success. Like I want to make it a thing. I don't want to go back to the gym floor. That was my biggest thing, is I don't want to go back to the gym floor. So even if I was financially secure, there was no, and I made that justification of, I'd go back to being a personal trainer. That was never even an option. So for probably, I'd say the first 4 years, maybe even 5 years, my life was I'd say definitely the first 4 years, probably up until 2021, I would say my life was very much wake up with an alarm, and within 15 minutes, I'd be open my laptop. So I'd wake up between 5 and 5:30, 15 minutes later, I'd be at my laptop working. And that was my life for many, many years. And the only thing that really changed in the first 4 years was at the beginning, I'd finish at like 10:30 p.m. in the evening. And then every year, maybe I'd knock an hour off, so I'd actually get there in the evening. And I'd say that was my life for 4 years. I didn't really look up from my laptop.
Yeah, I mean, I remember that when we were dating. So we met 1 year into RNT, just 1 year and 1 month in. And I remember, like, when we used to meet up, you used to come to my flat and you used to be exhausted. And by 9 p.m, you were just like falling asleep. And I'm there like, this is the beginning stages. Like, I want to hang out.
Yeah, one thing I did do in the beginning was, do you remember, I think you gave me a book called like 24/6 or something?
24/7.
24/6 or 24/7.
Oh, yeah.
I think it was called 24/6. And it was basically this idea of like 1 day a week, you should switch off from all electronics. And I thought to myself, this sounds like a good idea. But I called it like 22/6 because I was doing every single job in the business. If like an inquiry came in, or if a new sale came in, or if someone had something, I don't know, an issue or whatever, I always made it a thing of like, it had to be within 24 hours. So I thought I could take 22 hours off, but I couldn't take 24. So for me, every week, Friday at like 4 or 5 p.m, I'd use that as like my goal to finish by. And then I'd come see you absolutely shattered from the week. And then probably fall asleep on the train there, fall asleep when I was with you. And this is at the early stages. I was falling asleep on the sofa, watching movies. And then I knew in my head, all right, I've left it at 4 p.m. or 5 p.m. I've got till 2 p.m. the next day to chill out. And then I've got to be on my laptop at 2. Do you remember, like, I'd be like, all right, it's 2 o'clock. I need to get my laptop out. And then I'd work in the afternoon. And then I'd go home. And then Sunday was just like a normal day for me. Just that and the best thing about Sunday was that because no one else was working, I could just get loads of stuff done.
Yeah.
And that was the reality for many years. And I look back and sometimes wonder, like, how I managed to do it for so long, and why I didn't let go or delegate quicker. And I wish I did.
That's interesting. You mentioned delegating, and you also mentioned just now that you were doing every single role in the business.
Yeah.
So how has that changed as you've gone on through the years?
Yeah, I mean, there was one time where, you know, we used to have like inquiries. So I used to have this name called Alice at RNT Fitness.
I remember her.
She used to be my inquiries lady. It was just me on a different email trying to make us look bigger than we were. And yeah, it was everything from all the finances, all the admin, all the inquiries, and then obviously all the coaching as well. Like I was a full-time coach as well. So, you know, I was managing a lot of people, doing the service because we just didn't have the team in place. You asked, like, how did I fit it in? What was the question?
No, I asked about you were doing every single role, as you said.
Yeah.
But then how did that change as the years went on?
Oh, yeah. So
obviously I'm assuming now, and I know now,
so in 2000,
you don't do.
yeah, so it's a good question. So, I mean, the first hire we did we made was a coach, right? We hired a coach because, you know, we exceeded capacity. So we hired a coach at the end of 2017, and then that was the only role I hired for until 2019 when I collapsed in 2019. So I was like, all right, something's got to change, right? Because it was from just stress and burnout, just working too much. So I collapsed from like exhaustion, and it happened a few times. And I met a group of friends. I met Dan around that time, so who's now one of my best friends. But at the time, he like kind of served as a bit of a mentor. And he said to me, dude, how have you not got a PA? Like, how are you doing this all yourself? Like, have you not got an assistant or anyone? Like, that's not helping you. That's helping you like back office. So no, I haven't got anyone. And he recommended to hire a PA and hire a bookkeeper. Those were like the two recommendations he made. And he said, try and create some accountability around it. So like, try and like set a date for when you can step out of a bit. So that's when you said, oh, we want to go to Cambodia in the middle of 2019. You said, oh, we're going to go on a remote island and there won't be any Wi-Fi. I remember you texted me that thinking, she's mental. Like, this is only like, what, 6-8 months in our relationship. And you said, oh, let's go to Cambodia. We're going to a remote island. There's not going to be any Wi-Fi. Is that a problem? And I remember thinking, my initial response was going to be, yeah, it is a problem. But then I thought to myself, this is a great time because I just heard this feedback from a friend. I thought, no, just book it and I'll figure out a way to do it. So I used that as my checkpoint. So I had like 3 months to figure out how I can take 3 days off. Luckily I found a PA at the time and I found a bookkeeper. And those two things freed up a lot of my time. So the PA could help me with just basically responding to the volume of email that I was getting, just inbound. And the bookkeeper could help me just do simple things like VAT returns, VAT returns, end of month P&Ls, all these just basic stuff. It just takes, and just financial admin just takes so much time, just checking billing, has this person paid, has this person not paid, who needs to pause, whatever all these things are. That all got fixed. Because there was one point where I knew a VAT return was due, so I took all my receipts with me to, I think I was in Koh Rong or...
I feel like I remember this.
Koh Tao. I was in Koh Tao.
Koh Tao.
And I remember thinking, oh, I've got VAT returns to do. So I remember taking, on the trip, I took all the receipts with me, and I'm in a hostel and I laid out all the receipts on the bed. And I remember sitting there thinking, what am I doing here? And the next day, because I was still jet lagged, I was up at like 2 a.m. I was thinking, all right, perfect, 2 till 6 a.m. I'm going to do the VAT returns because it takes 4 hours. It was like a manual entry. This was before making tax digital. So then that year they had a legal requirement that you had to go digital with your VAT returns. So you had to get Xero in and QuickBooks or whatever it is. We ended up with Xero, which did help because that forced me to sort out my manual process. Because I was just manually doing all these things. And you know what I'm like with anything to do with admin. It's just like driving myself through this stuff. And then that was like the first step of like what ended up becoming building the team.
Okay, so how much more did you grow the team? Because now you don't do the coaching side, that's fine.
Yeah.
But then there are other elements of the business that you've kind of had to delegate. How did that delegation process go?
Yeah, so in that process of hiring a PA, what I did is I started tracking my time. I was advised by a few people, why don't you track your time with something called Toggle? Like, look at what you're actually doing in the business. So I set up different categories. I set up like marketing, sales, coaching, admin, finance, all the different sort of quote unquote departments. And I pretend I had a different hat on every time I did it. And then I track how much time I did. And then at the end of every week, I would review it. And from there, I'd try and, this was before I hired a PA, I created like my JD for the PA from this list. So based on what I wanted to get rid of, I created the job description for the PA and the bookkeeper. And then it was just a case of every week just reviewing what I could get rid of. The coaching was like the most obvious one because I was doing a lot of coaching. I was dealing with probably twice as many members as people would do full time, but I was cramming it into like a few hours a day each time. It was just super. I just had no choice. I just had to be super productive with my time, and but that was the easiest one to get rid of because there's loads of coaches out there. You just got to train them on the right methodology, and then obviously the culture fit has to be in place.
Well, saying that, you say it was the easy one.
Well, it's the easiest one on paper, but it's the hardest one actually to get right.
Yeah, so
which is actually ironic,
at RNT, it's
but
very.
That was my mindset of like, oh, this is the easiest thing to get rid of.
Yeah.
Let me do this one first, but it's actually transpired to be the hardest because standards are too high internally.
Which is a good thing.
Yeah, which is good. Like it's a good thing. Like because it started from me. Like the standards I have for results are so high, so finding the right people has always been challenging. And to this day, I still think it's the hardest part of this business is that it's a people business. The product is delivered by people. We're not selling widgets. We're not selling products. It's not an app subscription. We're selling a service and an ecosystem that relies on people to deliver it. And that makes it really, really tough because you're always dealing with moods of people, whatever they're thinking. Can they deliver? Are they following process? Are they following the methodology? And I think naively at the beginning, I just thought, just hire any coach, right? Just like at the beginning.
Yeah, because fill the role. We need capacity.
That got worse and worse. I mean, so that got harder and harder to do because the standards, I was like, shit, no, the standard needs to be this high. So we have to really be regimented with our process. And now we hire like I think it's like 1 out of 200 people that apply would actually get a job or even an interview. I can't remember which one it is. But now like Ed, our head of performance, he looks after the recruiting process and he's militant on that stuff. Like there's people I'll be like, I think they could work. He's like, nah. And that's exactly what you want.
So good. I love it.
He runs the team. So for him, he's got entire focus on that area and that's really, really key. But that is like the hardest hires to find for sure.
Yeah, that's one thing that I think we pride ourselves on. Yeah. The service, the coaching, and our real stringent process on recruitment of that to provide our members the service.
Well, I think because the product is delivered by people, that's what made me start thinking about like what we do with our tech and the ecosystem we built there. Because when we first started RNT, it was emails and a Word document. And it got the job done. Then we did emails and spreadsheets, and that continued to get the job done. But I remember thinking to myself, this is not a business. Like objectively, the value is nowhere. Like where the value is just in an email. Like an email chain is hard to audit. You can't I know it's digital, it's a digital business, but it was happening nowhere. It was happening and I thought to myself, we need the value to be in the ecosystem of RNT. So it's not just the value is not just in the person, but it's also in things like the phases. That's how the phases came about. Because I was like, all right, we need to create a journey. The education, the community, all these different things. So I try to create an ecosystem as opposed to just like an email and a trainer, which is what it started off as.
What made you go down? So you talked a bit about the tech. So let's just dive a bit more into that. So there are, firstly, it's hard to build tech. We know.
Yeah.
There's so many kind of barriers to it. The financial side of things, obviously you can get investment, but this is something that we haven't done. You've not reached out to anyone for investment. This is just reinvesting what we have in the business back into the business and building the tech. And then on top of that, you've got so many other apps, tech that now does fitness coaching. You can white label. So the two different routes of kind of creating your own, which has barriers, which is hard, it's financially challenging, versus, okay, you've got the white label, but you can just kind of bang your logo on it, or, you know, however it works, and then boom, you're good to go. What made you go down this route of building your own tech? Because that's what you've done. We've hired a team. They've built the tech from scratch according to our specifications.
Yeah, so a few things that drove it. One was I kept feeling quite nervous about this whole email and Word document system. I thought to myself, there's something that's not like, it feels great for like a couple of people just having fun doing online coaching. It doesn't feel like something that you can scale and you can have more people in, because, you know, with more people, there's more process, there's more auditing, there's more quality control, all these things that need to be in place. And it's just really difficult to do just with emails and Word docs. So that was one. I was like, okay, so the answer has to be like, we have to move to a centralized system to deliver the service. That was like the first thing. Then I was like, all right, what's a what service? And at the time, this was like 2020. There's a few things out there like Trainerize and a couple others, but I looked at it and I just thought, it felt like it was built more for gyms. It felt like they kind of did a bit for the online, but online was still kind of new. It just felt really generic, and we had we were already delivering people through a 5-phase methodology, even though it was through spreadsheets. It was going through the 5 phases. There was daily check-ins. There was all these other things that we were checking from a data perspective. I was like, well, I don't want to take that away because I really like that. And that is a big part of what we do at RNT. So then I was like, okay, so I want to have the 5 phases as part of this. I want the accountability system from like a data perspective to be there. So the daily check-ins, the weekly check-ins. So I was like, I'll just build our own. And I think I said it again, you know, it comes back to the question of like, you asked at the beginning around how did RNT start? I think I said it with a lot of naivety. I thought to myself, yeah, this will cost like $100,000 and we'll get the whole thing done. And I think it was very naive looking back. I should have probably looked into a bit more about what it's like actually building technology. But there's also another reason. One was I thought to myself, if I want to build a business that's unique and build something around the RNT framework, culture, methodology, then we have to do it ourselves. We can't rely on like Trainerize and their updates and whatever they feel like putting on their apps. I thought, let's just do it ourselves. Again, I was very naive in that I didn't realize how long tech takes to build. I didn't know how much it costs. You know, I remember first seeing an MVP quote and thinking, oh, it's not too bad. It's $20,000 to build an MVP product. I didn't realize how much of so minimal viable product. I didn't realize how bare bones that actually is and how much you have to build into it. So I had a few people warn me at the time saying, oh, don't build your own software. It's like, it's the most expensive mistake you'll make. And I think I just ignored it all and just thought, you know what, I'm just going to give it a go. And we started building early 2021. And it took about 10 months to get the MVP right.
10 months. What were you expecting? It was supposed to be quicker, or?
Yeah, I thought it'd be done in 3.
Fine. Okay.
But again, there's a few mistakes I made. One was maybe it was 8 months, and it took. I thought it'd be 3. A few mistakes I made was one, like, it just wasn't clear enough on the spec. I didn't realize, like, it's not like you're collaborating with a designer and being like, oh yeah, cool, you know, just edit that bit in the video, edit this bit in the video. It's like you're dealing with code and all these other things. So I was doing a lot of double work, as you know, like where I'll come up with an idea, do this. Then I'll be like, actually, let's do this instead. And then, but all that costs a lot. And I just took that. I was quite, just naive. And, you know, in a future world, this is all great lessons I can take towards in like tech, if I was to do tech again. But with this, it costs us a lot of money. And there's a period of 10 months where we were losing tens of thousands of pounds every single month. And I look back and think, how did I actually feel? I was like, it'll work itself out. And I think there was low level. There was always that level of like stress of, if it doesn't work out, this could be quite bad. It could be the end of it. But I think I've just got this, sometimes I can never see, the idea of failure just doesn't pop up to me. I'm like, I'll make it happen. And you know, the end of 2021, we did a huge campaign. If you remember the Great Reset campaign.
Yeah, I remember.
And one of the reasons why it was so big was because I had my back against the wall. I was like, if I don't do a massive campaign here, we're going under. I will have no money left. So yeah, we lost tens of thousands of pounds every single month for 10 months. And I remember I was like, all right, I need a big campaign for January. So we came up with the Great Reset campaign. And I remember thinking, in my head, it sounded good. I don't know how well it actually was, but the actual results were phenomenal. We filled up a 250 person intake, and we started the campaign like mid-October. We went all the way to mid-December, and it was brutal. Like, do you remember? Like, I was doing on our honeymoon. This is on our honeymoon to Jamaica. So 2 things about the Jamaica trip. The honeymoon, we had a 10-day trip to Jamaica planned. The first step is I didn't renew my passport, so I couldn't actually turn up to the honeymoon on time. So I had to come 3 days late to the honeymoon because my passport had gone out of date. And the second thing is I was doing calls. I was doing calls and working. And I remember thinking, again, it came back to that moment of like, you know, when I was on the gym floor thinking, this can't be the future for me. I need to make sure I create a team around this now. You know, we've got the team of coaches, but there's no one helping me on the other side with marketing and sales. I was thinking to myself, this is not sustainable. I can't be taking calls when I'm in Jamaica and all inclusive, because no one else can do it. But I had my back against the wall for that month, and I was like, I have to get this right, otherwise, business might go under. And none of the team knew this. I didn't tell anyone. I just like absorbed the pressure. I think I've told them maybe 6 months later. I said, oh, by the way, guys, you know. So yeah, that's my experience with tech.
It's interesting because when I first came into the business, is it 2021 or 2022?
No, it was after all this. It was 2022.
Yeah, so with the tech, I remember that was one of the things that I was taking on.
Yeah, it's the first thing I let go of. I was like, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah, but I remember coming in and I was like, what? Firstly, the finances, but secondly, it's just that there's no clear plan. Like as you were saying, you're kind of doing the double work, which then means more spend, and it just didn't make sense.
What I think I realized with tech is, I think where I added the most value was at the beginning of like, this is the vision. But where I should have, like, it would have been, in hindsight, the reason why you were able to fix that whole part of the business, the tech stuff, and you know now Ed and Charlie lead on it, is it just needs really good operations and management, not like constant, hey, let's try this, let's try that, let's try this. Because I was there doing this, hey, try that, and I just didn't realize that I would just be like, oh yeah, it's just part of it. There's not a change, there's not a cost for every single change and every hour of the developer's time.
Yeah, but you still did that. So we were like talking, you're like, how about we try X, Y, Z? And I'm like, firstly, how much is it going to cost? Yeah. How long is it going to take? What's the ROI? What benefits are we going to have? Is it a nice to have, or do we 100% have to do it? It's a must do. And these are the kind of questions that I think were needed at the time to really streamline and optimize what we were doing with the tech.
Yeah, now that I think we're in a good place with it, and we're actually so recently we were looking around at white label options again, because we were thinking to myself, right, we bootstrapped this whole thing. It's really most tech is you get investors, like you said, because it's just the sheer expense. So we were thinking, it's just better just to go down the white label route. But we started looking around, and there's just not much good stuff out there. Like when you look at it, it looks nice. When you actually go behind the scenes and look at it and think, all right, is this going to be a step back for our clients or a step forward? And they weren't actually. There's nothing so far that I've seen. We've done a lot of research that shows a step forward. So we're actually going to start just taking the tech to the point where we think, all right, this is really good. So just a couple more things on nutrition that we want to get onto the app. A couple of gamification ideas that we've got, just to create a bit of a gamification element to the process, because gamification is massive for just getting that momentum. And probably a few more internal things for the tech, so we can, on our end, can help people better.
That's interesting. There you are, members, Inside Scoop. Here's what's coming up next on the tech.
We've been pausing development for maybe 8 months, but we've been just kind of waiting to see, like, basically we got to the point where we was like, we can't keep building, so let's just pause and see what happens and see what feedback comes in. And now we just looked at the feedback, looked at what we think, and kind of using that together, come up with a plan.
Yeah, I think one of the things that worked really well was the collaboration with our members as well. I think that was super important for us to head in the right direction. So there were little test groups that we did just to understand what is it that they want from their experience, from their member experience, from the app, from usability factor to what they're actually getting for the training and nutrition and everything. And I think that helped the team understand more and just kind of hone in on certain areas to help build.
With tech, one of the other thing with tech is I wish I did more of that at the beginning, because what I was doing, I was like, oh, this would be cool. This might be cool. This might be a cool idea. And then really I should have, there's a time and place for that. There's also like probably a merging of that with what you hear.
Yeah, it's what you want versus what is.
I think I waited a bit too long to get that feedback. But I think that was one of the first things you did. It's like, all right, cool. Let's put our best members into a focus group. And I think you were hosting some of those.
Yeah, I mean, this was your idea.
Oh, was it? Was it?
Yeah. These are all your ideas. I think a lot of what we do, everyone does, is stems down from your ideas.
Yeah.
You're just like, let's try this, let's do this. And then we're like, oh, that works. I was, oh, no. Okay, wait, that's good. Let's do the focus groups because that's a really good idea. Yeah, it was your idea. And we got that going. I think we were on holiday or something you were saying?
Yeah,
I can't even remember.
Yeah, I remember being away and you were hosting a focus group later.
We're the same, aren't we? You're working on the honeymoon. I'm doing focus groups on another holiday. It's like, hey, why not? Let's just give it a go. But you mentioned the tech. We mentioned a bit about the finances. Investment was an option. It's always an option. That's a route that you haven't gone down. Why is that? Is that a deliberate move? Like, why have you not gone down that route?
I think when you have investors involved, you're playing a different game. I think you're then accountable to investors, and you have to show certain returns. You have to, they want to see a return on their money, right? Whereas I'm okay to wait longer to see that return, because they might want to see it quicker. And I think you just play a different game where you lose a bit of that freedom that well, for me, I wanted to have that freedom. If you've got investors involved, I think you lose a lot of freedom. I know a lot of entrepreneurs who have investors, either angel investors or venture capital or whatever it may be, or PE, and they play the game very differently to the way I do it. It feels like they're in a very high stakes, high pressure, I need to get this to scale, I need to get the exit type vibe. Whereas I prefer to have the autonomy and freedom, which is what I always craved at the beginning. And I still do. For me, it's all about kind of effectively doing what I want. And if I had investors, I think I'd lose a lot of that. I have flirted with it a lot. It's not me saying I haven't flirted with it. I flirt with that a lot and think, oh, well, should we take on investors and do this and that? But then I kind of lose. It's never something that sticks.
I remember really vividly a discussion that we had around investment. It was when I was working in the business and you were like, okay, these are our options. We can go for the investment route or we can continue doing what we're doing.
Yeah.
But these are the pros and cons with investment. These are the pros and cons with continuing to do what we're doing. I was supportive of either one, knowing that the investment one may require more of your time, energy, sacrifices from yourself. And I remember saying to you, do you remember what I said to you?
What?
I said to you, have a think, choose which option, because this is something that you're always flirting with, as you said. Yeah. And I said, whichever one you choose, you're choosing it for a reason. Like, do a real deep dive as to what you want from your life, what you want from us, where you see us going. Like, I've had stories where people take on investment or they're working like crazy hours because of it, because of the returns and all that they need to get for the investors to see. And then they start losing bits of their life, their personal life, their family. They're not as present and all of these things, which I said, okay, I understand that risk. I understand all of that, but you choose. I'm not going to be there saying yes or no, because I want you to be satisfied and content with whatever decision you make. And I said, once you make that decision, I don't want to hear about the other route again. So if you choose investment, I don't want to hear about, oh, we should have done this. If you choose going down our own path, then I don't want to hear about investment again. Obviously, it comes up here and there, but for the right reasons. But yeah, I remember when I said that to you, you really thought about it. And that's when you were like, okay, I want to head down. Let's continue doing this ourselves, that route. And not every business is fortunate enough to do that. So that's one thing to add there. We're very fortunate that we're able to reinvest and put the profits back into the business to build this tech. And it may be, is it at the pace that you want it to go at so far?
Well, I think you could probably do it quicker because you'd probably have your own internal tech team. you'd have a CTO, you'd have more developers, you might get things done quicker. But I don't know. The grass is always greener, right? So it's always going to look nicer on the other side. But who knows really?
The grass is greener, but you also don't know what you're going to be what you're going to be sacrificing as well
exactly.
to have that green grass. Yeah. Okay. So you mentioned a bit about the team just now. So you said, okay, you've scaled the coaches, and then you were like, right, I know I needed to scale other areas of the business. So how did you scale that? What does the business look like right now from a kind of team perspective?
Yeah, so we have, so all those hats I used to toggle are basically, I'd say majority are filled. So there's a coaching department, which is pretty straightforward. And then we have member success / ops / finance kind of all merged into one. And they do a lot of different things. I call them like the Swiss Army knives. They kind of do lots of different things with the business, but mostly they keep things running really smoothly in the noisy parts of the business, which are the coaching parts and sales and marketing. They're like the noisy parts of the business. So the Swiss Army knives in the middle will keep everything running smoothly, and they also add another layer of touch points and support for our members as well. So that's sort of another department. I'd say that's in the middle. It's basically 3 departments. Like a friend of mine once used to call it like, you set your business up called like God, like growth, operations, delivery, and that's kind of how it is here. It's like you got the delivery, you got operations in the middle, and then you got growth, which is marketing and sales, and that's pretty much it. And then my role, for the most part, I'd say 80% of my role now is leadership and having the spark and the ideas. I think that's where I can add the most value, is developing the leadership team, developing the people that are effectively running the company, and providing the random crazy ideas that keeps things moving forward.
Sometimes a bit too many ideas.
Yeah,
how do you get these ideas focused?
Yeah, so
well, how does your mind work as well? Do you talk about these ideas?
So my mind works really weirdly, but in that it's just always firing. It's always firing, and the more space I have, the worse it gets. So if I have a lot of space and a lot of time to think or just to do whatever, that's when the best stuff comes. But it'll come like in random spurts, and then in a lot of spurts as well. So I'll be like, oh, we should do this, we should do that, we should do this. Then I end up writing loads of notes on my phone, or I'll start firing things all cylinders to people in the team. And one of my team recently gave me some feedback saying, I think because we were away in Ras Al Khaimah, and they said, it's really nice you were on your way, so we can actually get on with and do our work. And I was thinking it was a really good piece of feedback, because I realized otherwise I'll just go in, launch loads of different ideas, of which none of them need to be done. They're all just, most of them, like 9 out of 10 will just be useless, but there'll be one that's like, yeah, that's a really good one. But that 9 out of 10 just annoys and frustrates everyone. Whereas what I'm trying to do now is like contain it. And I don't know if it's a good one or not, really, because if it's a good one, I'll release it. Like I have to get it out of my system. I'll release it into my notes folder or my journal or whatever. And if I keep coming back to it after, then I know it's a good one.
Okay.
If I look at it and think, yes, I don't know what I was thinking there, then I just leave it. That kind of helps me control my seizures I have. Although you probably get the brunt of it, to be fair. I think if I was living alone, I think I'd really struggle. But you probably hear it, which yeah, I don't envy you there.
I was going to say there's one layer that's just before the team.
Yeah,
so you've got like the 1,000 ideas, gets filtered down to about maybe 20 ideas, and then the team get like the 5 ideas. That 20 ideas is me, by the way. I remember when we were dating, and even like when we were married and stuff, and you'd get ideas sparking left, right, center. We'd be walking, or you'd be sleeping, or anything, watching a movie, and then you'd be like, oh, and then you just get your phone out to make a note. You still do that now, or you'd get your notebook and make some notes. And initially I was like, what is this guy doing? Like on his phone in the middle of us doing something or talking or something. But you're just constantly inspired. You're constantly seeing things and thinking of things and connecting the dots in your head.
Yeah.
And I thought it was like a genius mind. I've never come across someone who does it like you do. And that's why I'm very curious to know, like, what exactly goes on in your mind, like with all these different ideas and things. And that's why I asked the questions. I think it's really interesting that.
Well, I think that's a very biased statement because
What do you mean?
most genius mind and all.
I think that.
But,
I'm sure others would agree who know you as well. And maybe
don't
it's
know about
biased
that.
because they know you.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
I don't know. I'm your wife. I can say these things.
Yeah. I think over the years, I've kind of realized where I add the most value and where I can actually, where I really enjoy what I do. I think at the beginning, it's just you just got to do everything, and the reality is, I look back and think, did I love it? And I think I love that whole journey, but I just did it out of sheer will and brute force. If that makes sense, it was just like, it's going to happen. Let's just make it happen with brute force. And there'll be periods like in the last 2-3 years where, because of whatever, I've had to just step in and apply brute force to get something done. But for the most part, where I think I can add the most value is just having my head in the clouds. And I think with the team, if you look at the team that we've got, including yourself, most of the team are more of the operator type minds. So it works really well in that if we had like 5 of me in the company, I think it'd be all over the place. Whereas pretty much, I'd say most of the team is actually more of an operator mindset, which is great. And that's exactly what you want for a well-oiled machine, so to speak, as opposed to just everyone just going crazy with new things all the time. So that's been good.
You said there's been times where you've had to kind of use brute force and just kind of go in. Can you give an example of that? You said there's times when that's happened.
Yeah, so we had one. So I mean, last year we had one employee who just randomly went AWOL. Just went on holiday, never came back. Never heard from him ever since. And he was, never heard from him again. So I had to step in and do his role. And that involved like just loads of long hours. It was mostly involved in sales. So yeah, he just went completely AWOL. Never heard from him. I spoke to him every day for 2 years. Went on holiday, never came back. And I know he's alive because I then had to, like 2 months later, I sent a cease and desist because he was doing some fraudulent activity. And I just thought to myself, why do people do this? So that was like one recent. I think back in the day, there was a period in 2020, a couple of periods in 2020 where either we had a few people leave or I had to fire people for various different reasons. And it meant I had to take their role. And I knew what it meant when I was firing these people. I knew exactly what that meant for me, which meant doing a lot of their work, which added like an extra 3 hours each day. And that's never fun. It's never fun firing people, but it was a case of like the clients aren't. In my head, I'm like, all right, they're client facing. They can't stay with us. I have to get rid of them, and then I have to fulfill the role. So I mean, that was a key part, and that made me question the business quite a bit at the time because I'm starting to think, oh shit, the people reliance is so high, and that's why we needed to build systems that allowed for this to happen, allowed for if people left or we needed to get rid of people, which happens, right? It happens in every business. Then it's not make or break. Whereas at the time we were running very much make or break. There was no real systems in place. There was no processes. Like this was me just doing everything. The crazy lunatic running around everywhere, trying to hold this thing together. And if someone left, it made it like everyone felt it. It was like mainly me. I felt it like, oh shit. Whereas now, if that happens, it's not as much of a deal because we've built a lot of capacity around that. We've built systems in place, processes. That makes it much more enjoyable as well because you don't always feel like you're one firing away from or some person leaving away from just like all chaos and all hell breaking loose. So that made me question the business a lot, but it also made me realize that we need to fix that issue. And that was like one of the reasons for the tech and various other different processes and stuff.
So you mentioned things around employees, and we've got employees as well as contractors in the business. And that was a decision that you made around hiring employees, which comes with its own kind of risks and challenges. And it's a bit different to hiring a contractor, as you know. What made you go down the employee route versus the contractor route, obviously if the worker is based in the UK?
Yeah, so when we first started RNT, especially for the coaches, we paid people per client. And they were freelancers, we paid people per client. And as a result, every month their wage would go, or their invoice would go up and down, and be very variable, right? Which is, you know, it's great. It's great from a startup perspective because you've got no overheads, like effectively, right? If you have less people, you have less overheads. If you have more people, you have more. But then I started realizing that one of the biggest reasons why coaches wanted to work for RNT or a place like RNT is stability. They wanted stability. They wanted to not worry about what their paycheck was going to be at the end of the month, and they wanted to feel part of something. So again, another thing that came from this whole me thinking about the people and product and something needed to change was also giving especially coaches a bit more stability. So I decided to move people in the UK to an employee model, and then kind of reflect the way you can do it in various different ways for the contractors. Mostly to give them peace of mind, so they don't have to worry about their variable paychecks. And secondly, to then be able to also incentivize for good results as well. So that they had a base that they always knew was coming, but they could also grow off the back of that. So that was the main reason. And then also just to feel part of something.
That's good. I think it works well for us. It's obviously has its own challenges of being employed, all the kind of employee rights and everything that comes along with it, but it works quite well for us, for those in the UK. So it sounds like it's been a very long and crazy journey for you over the last 8 years. You've had your ups, you've had your downs. I just want you to share a bit more about some of the downs, some of the key kind of top 3 challenges or things that you remember quite vividly from your last 8 years that have kind of impacted you, that you've grown from, learned from, apart from the tech and the scaling and stuff that we've talked about, but just anything else that you think?
So one of the most challenging things was when I got my first lawsuit. And anyone who's run a business say, like, at some point you're going to get a lawsuit, right? But your first one is always like it does test you, and it does keep you up at night. And I remember I got a lawsuit coming, and I can't talk about the details for legal reasons. But I remember it came in around 2018. And I think I was actually at your place at the time.
Yeah.
In fact, and funnily enough, all lawsuits come in Friday night when
we had our date night.
Right at the end and the close of play. And this lawsuit dragged out from, I'd say, the middle of 2018 all the way. So basically from the moment, I think 3-4 dates in, all the way till the end of 2019. So it was an 18-month long thing. And it would drag out because the letters would come in every 4 weeks or 6 weeks. And I think it was one of the few things that kept me on edge because it was so unpredictable, and I had no idea what was going to happen, and it would always come at random times. So I think I struggled with that one quite a bit. And there was some moments where I think we were on the train together on the way to seeing your cousins, and I just felt this like I think on the way there I got a letter. And it was like quite a serious one, and all part of the same suit. And the crazy thing about this whole thing was, objectively, it was not really much.
No, yeah.
But it was made into this big thing, right? And I remember on the train and then at the dinner, just like my heart was just palpitating, and I think I had a low-grade anxiety attack at the time. Just like I was just feeling really, really on edge. My breathing was shallow. My heart was racing. And it was all over this bloody letter that I was getting. And that wasn't the only time. In fact, when we were in Thailand, you weren't there. It was for my cousin's wedding. So because of the time difference, we were 8 hours ahead, and there's a wedding reception going on. I remember checking my phone, all right, like maybe midnight. So it'd be 4 p.m. in the UK, and I remember I got a letter then. So I had to leave the reception and call my lawyer from Thailand at midnight and be like, "Oh, what do we do?" And I remember thinking, what have I signed myself up to? So that was I'd say that was a challenging one. And it's interesting, like a friend of mine just literally yesterday said to me, "Hey, I've got this lawsuit." I was like, "What they said?" And he showed it to me, and I said, "That's nothing." And you said to me, and you said to me, "That's literally what you had. Like, it was similar to what you experienced." I was like, "Yeah, that's actually quite true. I can understand," because he said he's not been sleeping that well for the last few days. I said, yeah, actually, if it took me back 7 years, I'd probably be feeling the same. So I think that was really challenging. I think I think the other challenging thing, this was quite early on, was breaking up with my business partner. That was pretty tough. That was a year into the journey. We were best friends before going into business. Probably wouldn't recommend that going again, just for the fact that, we were best friends who kind of lean on each other for confidence of doing this thing. We were like, you know what, we probably could have done it separately, but we were like, it's a bit risky. We should try it together, because we were doing something similar already, but in a more secure way, if that makes sense. Like, we were kind of working together a lot, but never on our own. So about a year in, we just realized we were on different wavelengths, value different things, different visions, different goals. And that was bringing that up. We both kind of knew it was there, but we didn't have that discussion. I remember having that discussion, and it's horrible, like that experience. Because I think in that I lost I initiated the conversation. He left RNT, but I also lost like my best friend at the time. So that was really tough. But luckily we actually reconciled last year, and we're back to being good friends. So that was actually really nice. After like 4 years of pretty much not speaking to each other.
I'm your biggest champion for this. You know how
maybe
excited.
5 years we didn't speak. No, 6 years. We didn't actually speak between 2018 and 2024, and then we reconnected at the start of the last year. So yeah, that was quite interesting.
I remember when we first met, and you talk about your business partner and how, like, you didn't even say business partner. This is just my best friend, and I was so excited to meet him.
Yeah.
And as you said, you just kind of reconciled.
Well, I told you on
year.
my second date, I think I'm thinking of quitting, thinking of leaving.
Yeah, you were very open with me on the dates very quickly as well.
Yeah, which I'm not normally with. I mean, that's probably just a sign that I think I knew it was something different.
Well, we can talk about that a bit later. But yeah, and I remember when we met him last year, and I was just so happy. I feel like I was like this giddy girl, like, oh my God, like he's back. Like, I'm so happy and excited that, and also just hearing that he's got his own success in doing something that he loves. It's just so nice. Like, I get really happy and excited about these things.
Like, looking back now, it's the best thing that happened, because, he was doing something he didn't really enjoy. I wasn't enjoying the relationship. He went off to do something that was more suited to him. I obviously ended up doing with RNT. So it's worked out for the best. And but that was tough at the time. That wasn't easy, and that was early on. So I remember at the time we were going through this together, actually, this legal thing. And then I threw in the mix of, hey, I think we should break up at the same time. So there was like this breakup, there was this lawsuit. It was all happening at the same time. And that was pretty messy. Very early on in the business as well, like in terms of, but I'm glad it happened at the beginning, because then you kind of, everything just resets in terms of your expectations. So, when I mentioned, we were losing tens of thousands of pounds every single month for 10 months straight. But I was like, I've been through worse. So it's like, for me, I mean, that was already kind of reset the bar high. So my stress tolerance just got higher and higher. It got really high right from the beginning. And then the bar was just set as like, all right, this is my natural stress point. Anything below is just like, yeah, whatever, it's just business.
Yeah, I do feel like you've built a lot of thick skin as you've gone along, and you're just becoming immune to a lot of things.
Yeah, you just kind of get on. There's not many things that really just, I mean, even through like when you're firing someone, I'll fire someone and then just start laughing with you after. Not about the firing.
No,
but
just
as
like
in
you're
whatever,
normal.
just be playful and just joking around. Because I think over the years you just realize that it's business, and you just got to do what you need to do. And if you're going to get emotional about every single thing, you're not going to last. You're gonna burn out very, very quickly, because business will ride your emotions up and down. So you gotta kind of be a little bit detached from it, and sometimes be a little bit cold.
Well, it's interesting you say that, because that's what I experienced from you. Not you being cold to me,
Yeah.
but when things like this happen, or when anything happens to you, obviously I feel it.
Yeah.
And inside I'm like, oh my God, I hope he's okay. Is he stressed? Is he this? And I feel it on your behalf. But then when we're together, or as soon as this thing happens, you're with me and you're just completely normal, like nothing's happened. You could be at the most busiest time, the most stressed out time. You could have crazy stuff happening, but no one would ever know. And you're just very normal with me as well. How do you do that? Because when something impacts me, you will know. I'm a bit more emotional about it. Whereas you're very much like, okay, this has happened, boom. Oh yeah, okay, let's get back to this. And I just don't know how you do that. I let it all out, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm stressed. Like, oh my God.
Yeah, I've thought about that quite often, and I actually don't know the answer, to be honest. I don't really know why I'm like that. My mum was like that. Oh, she is like that as well.
Yeah.
I think that's probably maybe it's the only kind of reason I can think of is I saw her build a business and go through some pretty rough stuff as well. But I never felt like it affected me.
Yeah.
I knew it was happening, but I never felt the stress. So I think I maybe just modeled it off her. It's the only logical explanation I can have is seeing her, how she dealt with stress because she stayed in the game for so long. Run a business for over 25 years. You're only going to do that if you can sustain that level of stress management, because it is a lot of it's stress management, right? And I think watching that, seeing someone actually live and breathe it rather than just saying, "Oh, don't get stressed." You get tips, but you can actually just see it. And I think that just rubbed off on me. So when I was in it, she would. I think that's where I just probably got it from, but I don't actually know the answer to that.
I think that's probably a good point. She's a very resilient woman. When things are maybe like rocky in her world, business-wise, you can never tell. She'll mention it, and I'm like, "Wow, that sounds really stressful." She's like, "Oh yeah, it's fine." And when you were telling her things that happened in the business, some of these challenges that you talked about, she's been like, "Oh yeah, I've been there, done that. This is, you'll be fine. This is this. This is." I'm like, "Oh, okay, cool."
I think the other thing I realized is like if I look back at all the different things, so from like lawsuits, people leaving, stealing clients, which used to happen a lot. So lawsuits, people leaving, firing, HR tribunals, all employees going AWOL, all the different things you can think of. If I chat to another business owner friend, they're like, "Oh yeah, it's happened before. It happened to me. It's like it's just normal." And if any business owners listening to this, they're like, "Oh yeah, that's just standard stuff." And I think that's another thing. It's like when you kind of contextualize it, it sounds like it's the end of the world when you're going through it. But when you realize like this is all just part of the game, it's like it's just part of the game, and you're just accepting that's it. Like as a business owner, you take on the responsibility, you take on the risk, but that's just it. You just got to be able to deal with that for a long enough period of time, because it's all gonna if you stay in business long enough, you're gonna experience one of these things.
Well, it's interesting you say that, because all these things stacked up, and then I remember you were saying, "Well, I think I've gone through it all now. Like, I don't know what else could come up. Actually, maybe an employee tribunal or something like that." Next thing you know, something happens with an employee. And I was like, you just had to say that. But you were so resilient at it. And it was just so quite straightforward to fix, because I almost feel like you've gone through so much that the first time something happened, you were very much like reactive to it. But now it's like, okay, cool. Like, let's just figure it out. It's easy to figure out. Let's keep going. Let's move on.
Well, part of business is just how long can you stay in the game, right? And if you stay in the game, you do good work, and you continue to be consistent, good things will happen. You just got to stay in the game long enough.
What is classed as long enough? Like, what do you mean by that?
I think if you quit at the first hurdle, that's probably not long enough. Like if you have like one hard year and you think, all right, this is not for me, I want to try something else, which will be better. That's not the right way to approach it, because everything's always going to look better on the outside, right?
Yeah.
The shiny object syndrome is massive. There's always like I'm always saying to you, "Oh, what do you think of that? What do you think of this?" I have to remind myself that that looks like a great opportunity, but it's probably going to be the same problems when you go inside it. Every business has basically the same problems. It's just like, how many can you keep solving it? Can you solve it and get past it? Do you want to solve it and get past it? Is another one as well.
Have you ever had moments where you thought, "I just want to pack this in now"?
Yeah, I mean, I've had quite a few of those moments, to be fair, and I'd say the closest I got to it was maybe early 2021. If you remember, I got into bed. I think we watched that film, Eat, Pray, Love. I don't know what that had to do with.
Oh, it was a good movie.
This, but I remember getting into bed and I was like, I'm done. I can't do it anymore. And then I took 10 days off. Do you remember?
What? Oh yes, I do remember.
I took 10 days. This was my first ever time taking more than 3 days off.
Yeah.
And I was just cooked. I hadn't had a haircut for like 8 weeks. I looked like an absolute
like the lockdown
mess. Yeah, it's kind of like.
But you had massive hair.
Yeah,
and
it's kind of
beard.
lockdown. It was just, I was just done, and I was like, I just need a break. I just told the team I'm off for 10 days. Don't talk to me. And I came back, and I think that kept me going for a while. But that was probably the closest I got to it, because I just fed up. I think I was just burnt out, absolutely toast. I think in recent years, every time I flirt with those ideas, it's usually been when I'm just doing stuff I just despise. And it's usually anything to do with what I didn't mention. When I mentioned earlier, I was like, I think I'm good at leadership. I'm good at idea generation. I'm but I really don't like day-to-day operations. I think I've learned about that myself is process, day-to-day operations, really fine details, management, all that stuff. It just isn't me. I've had to do it just because I've had to do it over the years, but more and more now I'm doing less of it because we've got a really good team now. And it's taken me I'd say it's taken me 7 years to find the right team, because also remember, this is my first ever business. So I've had to learn everything on the go, and I've had to learn everything like the first time. I always say, remember I say to you, like, oh, if I start a new business today, I'd do it completely different. I'd set all this up from the beginning, and I'd just do this. And I'd get these people in right from the get-go. Because it happened like literally from a Word document and an email of me doing that, it kind of just organically happened rather than like intentionally happen at the beginning. So because it's my first business, I've had to learn everything for the first time. I'd say when I've done too much of those sorts of things, I often think, oh, is this really it?
And you say first business, would you set up another business?
Yeah, I think I've got a few good things inside of me.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah, I think I really enjoy the 0 to 1 phase, like taking something from nothing and turning it into something. I really love that. Like, one of my favorite things to do, and you know this, I get really excited by this, is talking to people about their new business idea or their new startup or their business where it is right now, and just identifying opportunities, what they could do, how they could do it. As soon as someone like puts that in front of me, I'm just all over it, and I can spend hours doing it, and that really lights me up. I lose track of time doing that sort of stuff.
Well, I've seen you do it so
I've
well.
done it with loads of different people as well, and
yeah,
I just do it I do it for fun, and just like not as like a paid consultant or anything like that. I just love doing it, and that's one of my most. That's why I feel like I'm in my element. Yeah, and that's what I'm trying to do more now with RNT. I'm trying to think, all right, this is RNT in front of me. If I was advising it, what would I do? And try and do more of that.
Who is the advisor?
Yeah, it's you. Yeah. Then I get lost in the execution, and then so for me, the excitement bit is all up to the point of like, all right, guys, you got to do the execution now.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean,
that's what I mentioned earlier around having a lot of operators in the team, because they actually like the execution. They like execution. They like process. Because one thing I learned in business is what you hate, someone else will love. And I don't think that could be any more true. Because some people love that stuff, and I'm like, you know what, I can't get it, but great, go for it.
Yeah,
because that's what you want to find. You want to find the people that love what you don't like and kind of can move things forward. So, you know, would I set up another business? Yeah, absolutely. When? I don't know that. I've got no plans at the moment, but I think there's definitely. I can't see myself not doing one.
I think so. I think that is your kind of speciality and passion.
Yeah,
I've seen you do it with so many different people, including myself.
Like even now, like there's many there's quite a few entrepreneurs who I'll go back and forth with, and we'll send looms to each other, we'll voice notes to each other, all discussing strategy, how to help, and I'd sometimes just come up with ideas and send them across, and not to like interfere, but more just like, because we've got that relationship where it's reciprocal. But that sort of stuff like lights me up.
Oh, I like that. I definitely think that that's the kind of future direction for you, let's say. But for now, you're kind of still in that visionary state and figuring things out with R&T and just progressing forward with that. So who knows what's to come? It'll be interesting to see. I think it was a few days ago, you asked me a question. You'll have to I'm paraphrasing here, but it was something along the lines of, what do you do for fun that makes it look like work for other people? Is that that worded right?
What would you do? What do you do for fun that looks like work to others?
Yeah.
I heard that question by Naval Ravikant, and I thought, well, that's quite an interesting question. So I thought about it myself.
So let's hear your answer. Yeah, you asked me.
I've already just explained it, I'd say.
A bit about your idea generation.
Yeah, I'd say that.
Business.
And I think, I'd say it's probably that role in business. I find that really fun. I can do it all day long, feels like play. And I'd say there's another part of my life I think I think really well. I've figured out a way to do it well is balancing always my like kind of big physical goals with business and not letting the two interfere, whilst also trying to find the right balance with you guys. That's not really work related, but I feel like it's something that I've worked on quite well.
You definitely have. I feel like you've nailed that for me anyway. But we'll move on to onto that in a minute. Before that, with with business, things are changing rapidly in the business world.
Yeah.
So, for example, the trends, marketing, what members' needs, requests are, everything's changing. The way sales works, the way coaching works, everything's developing. How do you stay on top of everything? Because I feel like R&T is growing.
Yeah.
We're doing so many different things to what we did back then through some trial and error. And just we're intentionally doing these things based on the direction that you're giving the team. So, how do you
we've been
stay
here
on
for
top of
nearly
that?
8 years now, and what we did to enroll new members then is very different to what we do now. Back then you could just send an email out and people would just click a link and sign up. Like it's just different. But I think we've had a genuine trust recession in the market, in the fitness industry especially, because I think I read a stat maybe 5 years ago, or like in 2019, 2020. I don't know what the percent was, but maybe let's call it 10 to 20%. Only 10 to 20% of people had tried a coaching program. Now that number is like closer to 80, 90%. The problem is most of them had bad experiences. So what does that mean? They're carrying baggage. They've got trust deficiency. They've got fear. They've got skepticism. So one thing I've noticed in the last 2-3 years is that's been the biggest bottleneck to overcome in people, because they just think they're doomed to a life of it not working for them. So every 3 years, I found the market changes. Every 3 to 4 years, I found the way we do marketing and sales changes. Customer needs slightly shift every couple of years. A couple of things I do is, one is, I think I try and pay attention to complaints we get. Every business gets constructive feedback, so to speak, and it's usually a sign of, okay, this thing is coming up a bit more than we expected. So maybe it's a change in customer needs. That'll be one of them. Other things would be just looking at data, being like, okay, what we used to do that generated X amount of sales now does nothing. So what's changed? Oh, people need a call now, for example. They didn't need a call 5 years ago, but they don't need a call now. That's another thing. So every 3 to 4 years, things tend to change. And then, I'll generally, through like speaking to other entrepreneur friends, I may join, I've joined a few masterminds in the past, or like business kind of groups where people just share like what's going on, what's working, what's not working. And that kind of keeps me on the pulse. And then there's also just like the gut sort of intuition that I think I've been pretty good at over the last 8 years. And I think that's also another thing that keeps you in the game, is you got to have a bit of gut intuition of what's happening. So for example, one thing I'm thinking about a lot right now is GLP-1s and weight loss drugs. I'm thinking, all right, how is that going to change things in the next 3 to 5 years? Something I thought about 5 years ago a lot was about AI. I thought in five years ago, I kept talking about AI with you, I think.
Yes.
Saying, AI is going to take over the world, all this sort of stuff. Now, I don't know to what extent it will, but I remember thinking, it's going to change the way the fitness industry is done. And I think it has. I think it's caused two things. One is, I think we're experiencing, this is just the gut feeling I have right now, is I think we're experiencing a consolidation of the market. And this is something I spoke about for the last, I think 3-4 years ago. I said to you, in the next 3 to 4 years, the market will consolidate. And I think it is now, because what we're finding is people are either going to the low cost AI apps or low cost subscriptions, or they're going premium. And the middle market is just going to die. I think it'll be finished in the next couple of years. And now we've got weight loss drugs as well that will add to the bottom end of the market, but also sort of kill the rest of the middle of the market. So a lot of the one-man bands, a lot of the overnight Instagram coaches that came in during COVID, which happened a lot, I think they'll just sort of fizzle out, or they'll consolidate into one. Not consolidate into one, but consolidate with each other, or just stop, because for whatever reason. I think that's about to happen, because remember, the fitness industry is quite new. And I think we're still going through a maturation cycle where it needs to mature and become like an established sort of industry. And I think we're going through that phase now. So I think the next 3 to 4 years will be interesting with the online space, but then also with the GLP-1s and the weight loss drugs, how that impacts people's perception around coaching services. Because I think it might change how people use coaching. I think people will always use coaching, but how they use it might change if these drugs get more accessible.
And that's currently things that you and the team are discussing to see.
Yeah, we're always discussing
adaptable.
future. So I'll be like, hey, people always, the team will always ask me, like, what do you think is going to happen in the future? And I'll kind of just share these things. because that's where I can add value. But I think that's where I think those are going to be some big shifts that happen.
I agree. That's you basically steering the ship. Yeah, you've got all these ideas, but you're learning. You're constantly, as you said, masterminds through books, podcasts, talking to other entrepreneurs, mentors. Like you're learning and adapting. And for me, it's like leading the way. And then the team are there, like kind of just listening and giving input and collaborating and executing. So I think it works very perfectly.
I think the team we've got are really good because they're and one thing I know I need in the team is people to push back. So one thing I've learned is like you can have all these things and it's great, but it doesn't mean anything if it's the wrong stuff that's being put out there. So the good thing is, like, for example, you push back on 90% of things, like Ed will push back on like 95% of things. Like
I love it.
That kind of stuff is exactly what you need, because otherwise, you can't have yes men around you in business. You need people to like just hold the standard and to say no to a lot of things. Because I think one of my biggest mistakes in business in the last, especially the last 3-4 years, maybe actually now 5, I'd say, is distraction. I think I can get very easily distracted if I'm not careful. It's kind of what I talked about earlier. I get really excited about the 0 to 1, and then I kind of get bored. So I have to be very, very disciplined with staying focused. And I think the last 18 months has probably been the most focused I've been, as opposed to perhaps previously I spent a lot of time looking elsewhere, shiny objects here. Oh, we should try this, try that, try this, try that. And you realize that most of these things don't even work. Most of the goal is going to be just in looking at what you're doing and thinking how you can make it better. Because every business is designed slightly different, and every business's marketing system will work slightly different for their audience, sales system works slightly different for their audience, coaching, etc. And I think in the last 18 months that clicked for me, of like the only way you can fix the problems in your business is just to actually fix the problems in your business, not to look elsewhere.
That makes sense. And why is that boring for you? You know, you're saying 0 to 1, but then when you get past that stage, which you're at.
Yeah, I think because then a lot of it's just iteration and process.
Yeah.
So that a lot of it is just how consistent can you be? One of my mentors said to me maybe 2 years ago, business is meant to be boring. It doesn't mean business itself is boring, but it says the business should run in a boring fashion. And the more boring the business is, the actual better it is. Like the better it becomes, because all you're really trying to do is just wherever you are, is just get it a little bit better all the time. That's not going to come from new flash in the pan. Most of the progress is not going to come from new stuff. It's going to come from just doing the same stuff over and over again, but slightly better. So if it's not new stuff, I'm like, what do I do? So you just got to lock me up and throw me away. So I try to like change the way I think about approaching these. So rather than thinking, right, we need new ideas, I try and think, all right, what's the new ways we can do the same thing in the same context? That keeps me excited. That makes sense.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. That makes sense. I feel like you've given us a really good overview of the last 8 years of business, the things you were going through, the ups, the downs, the scaling process. What is next for RNT? Like, where are we going?
I don't really have an exciting answer for that, bar because it kind of links to what we just said there. Is it's getting what we're doing really just really shit hot. I mentioned some of the tech plans that we've got. That's exciting at the moment. I think I said to you yesterday, I was like, I'm really excited for this next stage of development, because I think these things will be really cool. Like we're coming up with some streak ideas and some gamification. I was like, this is interesting. So that's really I'd say that's exciting, because that's also very unique to us. So I don't have a timeline or roadmap yet. It's more just we're just in that discussion of like, which one should we do first? Because that's also important. And then seeing what has the best ROI. So that's exciting. I think we're doing more and more marketing in the US, which is exciting. Yeah. So we have less and less people signing up in the UK and more people signing up in the US. US, Dubai, got a few more people from Singapore recently. So that's exciting. And I think we're the best at what we do, to be honest. Like, I don't think there's anyone doing better than what we are when it comes to results.
I agree.
At every stage of the journey. You know, whether it's getting someone into the best shape of their life or teaching them how to build a lifestyle solution, no one's doing what we're doing. So again, there's very few, there's no one really to model with what we're doing. So we just have to figure it out ourselves.
Yeah.
A lot of people modeling us though.
Yeah. Yes, they are.
That used to you asked about challenges. That used to annoy me a lot. I think when people used to literally, I once read someone say like the physical is the vehicle, and I'm thinking, dude, like I know who you are. You've obviously read that off me. I've seen people even literally word for word use the same 5 phases. I was like, dude, like what are you doing? At least like, so that stuff used to annoy me, but nowadays I'm just kind of like I'm just a bit over it, because if that's the best they can do, they're not gonna last long, right?
Yeah, it's just deceiving as
Like
well.
in the last 6 months, I think I've sent 4 cease and desist letters, people using our transformation pictures, people stealing assets, or just stupid shit they shouldn't be doing, and they're not gonna last, right? So I used to get more emotional about it. Now I'm just like, all right, here's the legal letter, it's just part of the game.
Yeah, I know every now and then you just send me a Instagram account. Oh, look at this account. They blocked me, but
yeah,
they've got all of our RNT photos, and they've just changed the branding to their own branding, and they changed the names. And I'm like, why do people do this? Like, why is this?
They're copying the phase names. They do this, and then they'll always block me, and then someone else will show it to me, and I'm like, oh, just another copycat.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? But no, I think it's a good summary of your business journey. So thank you for sharing. And one thing you mentioned when we were talking about things you do for fun that may look like work to other people is you mentioned juggling some of the things that are important to you. Now you've mentioned, or you've talked about this before, but just to get a little recap, one of the things that you kind of live by are your priorities. You've got the top 3 priorities. So can you go into a bit more detail about what they are and how you actually juggle between them?
Yeah, so I've only got 3 priorities in life. It's you and Sia.
Oh, thanks.
It's RNT.
Yeah.
And it's whatever's top of my physical fitness agenda. So right now it's running. So it's running, RNT, and then 2 of you, and soon to be 3 of you. That's all I really do in life. And whatever is top will rotate in different parts of the year. But in terms of like how I balance the 3, I think over the years I've become really clear on what makes me happy, and that's a bit of a kind of wishy-washy word. Like what does that even mean? But I think I know what makes me feel good, and what I want more of, and I know my best days are when I have space to like have time in my journal, think, create, ideate stuff. When I chill with you guys, have a coffee, go for a walk, whatever it may be, I train hard, I create some good work, and that's about it. Remember that we've had loads of those recently, and I'm like, this is exactly what this is what I want, and then I just want to repeat that. And I think I learnt what made me feel good a few years ago, and then it's just been an iterative process of just getting more of my life exactly to that state, and that's been a lot of intentional work, of intentional structuring my week, my days, so I can tick those 3 boxes each day. I don't really feel like I have to balance the 3 because I don't really do much else. So all I'm really doing is these 3 things. Like, what else do I really do? I don't really do random stuff that doesn't align with those 3 priorities. So that makes it very easy to switch between the 3 and get all 3 done.
When you say switch, do you mean dedicate more time to certain things than others? Like, how does that work?
Not necessarily time, because like I'm not going to train for 8 hours a day.
That's true.
But I will train hard. Let's say like today I did 2 workouts, right? And we're doing this this podcast. So in my head I'm like, right, and the podcast started, so we need to leave at 1. So I was like, all right, I'm going to run at 6. I'm going to do my legs at 11. So Thursday is always my double day, right? All the other days are single. So I do run at 6, work out at 11, which is not my ideal time, but because of the podcast. And then I'll work in between the 2. I'll chill with Sia first, and then I'll work between the 2, and then we'll be here for the podcast because Sia's at our grandparents this evening. So we've got a bit of a date night. So if you just look at that objectively, there's only 3 things I'm doing. It's an RNT podcast, which is I've recorded some bunch of stuff before, so I'm in the studio for 3 hours right now. I've done the workout. I did a bit of writing earlier. Spent time with Sia. Spending time with you. That's it. That's what I need to do. And I realized what makes me feel really good is basically variations of those 3 things. And I've just been really intentional about what I do and what I don't do. I think most people go through life. And as I get older, I'm only like 33, but Oh, I'm going to be 33. But as I get older, I realize I can see this more and more. Is most people just go, there's two types of people, basically. There's people that are living on autopilot, and there's people living a life by design. And I'd say 99% of people are just living by autopilot. They go to university, they come out of university, get a job, they find a partner, they get married, they have kids, they move house, they go on 1 or 2 holidays a year, and they just repeat that for the next 30, 40, 50 years until they retire. And I look at that and think, there's so much you could do with the rest of your life if you can make some tough choices. And for me, I'd always rather live a life by design where I'm doing what I want to do, as opposed to just doing living by default, which is what happens otherwise. If you don't look up and actually decide where you want to go in your life, you will just get swept away by it. Yeah, once or twice a week, I'll have a conversation with someone who says to me, actually, I'm just struggling with X, Y, Z. I said, why is that? It's like, I don't really want to be doing this, but I'm doing it. It could be either a relationship, or it's usually a relationship or work. It's one of those two things that I relate to. And I said, well, why don't you think about where do you actually want to take this? And they've never thought about this. So they've never once thought where they actually want to go. They've just kind of fell into it. And these people can be really successful in their career. This is not like, they're making loads of money with their career, their business. They could have an amazing family. They could have the body. They have all these things, but they're riding the train in the wrong direction. So one thing I try to really be diligent about is making sure we're going in the direction we want to go to. And I say we because it's a we thing, right? But also personally, like I'm going in the right direction. I told you, and like, earlier on I was telling you about, oh, what do you think about this thing? The idea of doing this project. And he said, yeah, I mean, that's very different. And he said, do you think I should do it? He's like, yeah, if you want to do it, do it. And I thought to myself, yes, if I do want to, I'll sit on it and see if I actually do want to do it. Because that's another part. That's a part of this we can discuss. Like, how do you know whether it's actually a thing versus not? But the point is, if you're not careful, you can end up living a life where you don't actually want. And I think that's really sad when I see that. When I see that in people, when then people confide in me on that, I think it's really sad. And I think one of the best things about the RNT journey, if you go through it, is you start realizing these things because you become a bit more of an essentialist. You start figuring out what you actually want in life, because if you're lower on calories, lower on body fat, you've prioritized your day in a certain way, you've changed the way you live your life, you start thinking, okay, I've changed this. What else could I change? And that's how I kind of fell into this, because every time, for example, I've done a bodybuilding show or a photo shoot, I've come up with some massive change in my life. Like the last time I did a shoot, I think the last month of it, I said, I think it's time to have kids. Whereas, and I think if I look back since 2016, every single year of my life, there's been one major change or one big thing I wanted to accomplish. And at the end of every year, I always reflect and think, all right, what do I want to achieve next year? And what's the one thing I want to do? So for example, this year, my big thing is I want to run a sub 3 hour marathon. And I thought about a marathon for years. Remember I mentioned, maybe I'll run a marathon, Yeah. But it was never the thing. It was a thing I might like doing, but it was more because I thought, it could be cool, rather than I want to do a marathon. And then something clicked in October last year where I was like, I'm going to do a marathon. And I'm not just going to run a marathon, I'm going to race a marathon. And I want to go sub 3 hours. I want to achieve an amazing time, and I want to go all in. And once that switch flicks, there's literally nothing like that will stop me in doing it. That's one thing I've realized is to differentiate between what you want and what you don't want. I think you have to sit through the process of figuring it out. So for example, this marathon is a good idea. I thought about it for a while, but I never knew if it was the actual thing until the switch flicked, and then you're like, oh yeah, I'm all in now. So yeah, every single year I've had one like big intentional decision, and it's all kind of driving me to the place I want to go. And I always check in with myself saying, am I living the life I want to live? And am I going in the right direction? And if not, I need to course correct.
That's interesting. And I think you are 100% very intentional with how you want to live. Like you were talking about this marathon, the prep. I remember it was winter, raining, like chucking it down, freezing cold outside. And you were like, oh, I've got like a hour and 45-minute run at 6 a.m. and it's pitch black outside. And I'm just there like, oh, he's not going to do that, is he? And you were getting ready and really excited to go. And I was like, are you actually going to go? And you're like, yeah, this is a part of my training. Like, I'm going to go. it's different walking outside with an umbrella because you're able to in a big coat and a hood and staying nice and cozy versus running. And just little things like that. It's crazy. Just for me, I'm just like, wow. And you've impacted my life as well, because I was on that path of just going along with the flow, working for 7-8 years. And I remember you, when we first met, you were very much like, you have the potential to do other things. I just don't feel like you should be working in the corporate world. I just don't think that's your thing. And I remember you mentioning it a bit, and you always said, oh, why don't you join RNT? And I was always like, let's see. Like, I don't think that'll be a good fit. And then I eventually did quit, and it was the best decision that I ever made because it changed my life for the good, like for the better.
It's like the investor thing you said earlier. It's like that would probably have been the typical thing to do. All right, take on investors.
Yeah.
And I spent 5 years building something I don't want to build, being accountable to people I don't want to be accountable to. So this is another example of like, that's the trap that you can fall into. And would I have made more money that way? Maybe. But would I have lived the life that I enjoyed? Probably not. So I think for me, because freedom is a really core value of mine, that drives a lot of my decisions. I want to feel like I'm free. And that really makes a difference because I know I also operate best in that way. So when I figured out what makes me happy, then it was just the case of, right, I just want to do more of this. And over the years, like my drivers in life have evolved to becoming, to be more of this. I used to think a lot about my potential. Do you remember that? I used to talk a lot about, I want to fulfill my potential. I want to get to the end of life. And when I reach the guy at the gates of heaven or whatever, hopefully heaven, they have a list that they pull up and be like, oh, Akash, this is what you were meant to do, but this is what you did. And I wanted to be 100%, AAA star. And that drove me for a lot of time. Yeah. In fact, what first drove me was proving it to myself and proving I can do it, right? Sort of thing. Prove it to my old boss, prove it to my parents, all that sort of stuff. That was my driver. Then it was like, right, I want to fulfill my potential. And that took me so far. And then I thought to myself, like, what does that even mean? Like, what is potential? Like, is it achievement list? Is it is it a monetary target? Is it a financial target? Is it a physique? Like, what does my potential even mean? And then I realized, like, over the years that financial success is great, but it can feel very short lived, right? You hit a target, great. Next moment, you're like, yeah, what's next, right? You can hit a physical goal. Yeah, you do your Muay Thai fight. Like I did my Muay Thai fight, great. Right, what's next? I'll probably run my sub-pre marathon, great. What's next? So what I've done in the last year, and I think I've said to you a few times recently, I was like, I think I'm starting to crack it. Like I feel like I'm more settled in my head more than anything, because normally it's just the noise of like, do more, go harder. And then I realized, like, I don't think it's the potential thing that drives me anymore. What drives me most at the moment is, how can I just chase that flow? Not flow state's not the right word. How can I just chase things that make me feel happy? And it's a really strange, like, version of success, or version of like, what am I trying to drive towards? But that seems to be, at the moment anyway, the thing that makes me feel most at peace and less like anxious. Whereas the other ones, if you think about it, like I've got to prove myself, fulfill potential, hit this achievement list. All I'm doing is just chasing. And when I get there, nothing even happens. I don't feel any better. I feel worse, if anything, because I'm either burnt out, I'm tired, I've just hated the process in itself. Whereas now I'm like, okay, I've got a financial target, I've got a business goal, great. I've got my sub-3-hour marathon, great. And we're going to have a family of 4 soon. So I'm like, cool. These are all like targets, right? But if I can do it in a way that feels, that puts me in flow state, puts me in a peaceful position, the whole journey just becomes nicer. So, I mentioned earlier around like trying to figure out when I feel best. Like, okay, in business, I know I feel best doing this. So I'm trying to just do more of that and do less of the other stuff. Because that way, A, it's going to be more sustainable. But B, I'll probably just do better work. I'll do better work. And what will happen as a result of it? We'll get better results.
Yeah.
So if I can work in a way that's more enjoyable for me, we'll get better results, and I'll probably want to do more of it because it's exciting and it's fun. Whereas if I'm just like begrudgingly pushing a rock up a hill, it's going to be a painful experience. And I think if I spend all my years hating the experience, what good is that? And that's something I thought about more and more. And I think in the last maybe 3 to 6 months, say probably 3 to 6 months, I think I'm starting to see the other way of living, where you're not living out of scarcity and fear and like pushing yourself to the absolute brink. It's more just like, how can you make every day really enjoyable? And that really helps. That mindset shift has really, really helped. I don't even know what the question was.
No, I think that's so well put, and it sums you up so well. That I feel it more when you are at peace, when your mind is rested, when you're doing the things that you love, your priorities, when everything's balanced. And you're right, like I've never seen that you've been bothered about a financial target, or even like when you did your shoot, you were like, okay, shoot's done, you got shredded, great, pictures look great, okay, cool. Like out of it, it was like, okay, cool, what's next? Like,
yeah. Whereas now I'm like, you know what? These are like, these things are. I know that I think I'm really enjoying this process of running a sub 3 hour marathon. But I know it's not going to change my life if I run a sub 3 hour marathon. I'm not suddenly going to be an Olympic athlete. It's like it's got another hour to clip off if I want to be that good. But it's just a personal challenge that I want to experience, and this year I want to experience what that feels like. So that's the intention of this year. It's like I want to experience what it's like being like basically a part-time athlete. That's an exciting chapter, and I'll look back and think, all right, 2024 was the year. Sorry, 2025 was the year I ran a sub 3 hour marathon. 2023 was the year that I went from never doing Muay Thai to stepping in the ring for 12 weeks later and doing a fight. That's why I remember that year. Also having Sia.
I was saying, becoming a dad,
Becoming a dad. But it's like these, or like 2024 was I'll always remember it as we spent 3 months traveling with a newborn. Like it's these sorts of things where it's like, I want to look back at each year of my life and think, all right, that was really cool. That was really cool. That was really cool. Because if you look back and think every year was the same, every year was the same, every year was painful, every year was stressful. It's not really, I mean, that's it. That's all you've got really, haven't you? Because when you do achieve the financial goal, you do achieve the physique, or you do achieve whatever it is you're trying to achieve, the reality is you're just going to be like, what's next? So you may as well make it a bit more exciting.
No, I think
and
that's
enjoy
really
it along the way.
Very well.
And by the way, that also, by trying to construct my days into like making me feel good, there's still purpose behind it. So for example, we have purpose in what we do with RNT. That gives me some purpose, because what we do from a process and outcome perspective changes people's lives. Spending time with Sia, like having kids, is a purpose. My physical challenge is a purpose of like, how far can I push myself mentally and physically? That's a purpose there. So I feel very purposeful in my life, whilst also having that sort of intentional flow within it.
I love that. That's very well said.
I don't think I've ever articulated that before.
I know, it was really nice. You articulated it so well. I don't think I've heard it so much like that. I've just heard bits and pieces. So that's really nice that you just kind of said
Yeah, but it's also been a massive work in progress. Like I think I have struggled with my like looking back now, I think I've struggled with my mental health a lot over the years, from a perspective of just being a prisoner in my head of like, this isn't enough. We should have done this. That whole next thing, like just constantly thinking about what's next. But the biggest one has been like, that's not enough. That dialogue of, this is not enough. We didn't hit this. We didn't hit that. Oh, we could have done that. Could have done this. Ruminating. All these things I've spent years like trapping myself into. I look back and think, how good was my mental health at that time? But I don't actually know. It's hard to like put yourself back into that state. But I look back now and think, well, actually, I don't think I realized how dark of a hole I was in. Like I was pushing things forward, but I was just like not in a good place inside.
And I mean, I remember some of those moments when you weren't, because I kind of called you out on that. I remember towards your like 30th birthday, around that area, when we were traveling around that time. What was that, in 2022? I pulled you up on that because whatever you're going through, I can see it and feel it. Obviously, we live together. I know you very, very well. So that's something that I kind of sometimes take on, and I want to be there to support you. How do you actually process that? Because you don't know you're exactly going through it, but do you feel like you're alone? Like, how do you process that for yourself?
I think at the time I did. I think in the past I used to feel that. I used to just be really in my head of just like punishment of like, do more, be better, all that kind of stuff. And I think at the time I just used to, I think at the beginning I used to just get on with it. It's just brush it under the carpet and just go. And then I think cracks started emerging in 21, 22. Yeah, 21 where I like just had enough. And then 22, like the period you're talking about where I just felt anxious all the time. And I think what I was really craving, if I look back, I think what I was craving was, I think it was space to actually be able to process these things. Because if you're just running at 1,000,000 miles an hour all times and you never really like take stock of what's going on, I think you just carry the baggage all through your life. And I think the space was created by setting up the team and the systems and the structure of firstly doing the work that I want to do and enjoy. But secondly, actually just having a second to just breathe and be like, okay, cool. What's going on in my head? I think anyway that's probably helped quite a bit.
Well, you now know that, and that's something that you intentionally create for yourself, that space.
I can sense it really quickly now. Like I mean, like maybe last month, I was thinking, something's not feeling right, and I knew something wasn't right, but I was able to spot it straight away. Whereas before, I would dwell in it without even realizing I was dwelling and getting myself deeper and deeper and deeper into a hole. Whereas now, I can just pick it straight away. As soon as I know like my thoughts are not in the right place, I just pick it up straight away. I'll usually flag it to you. Whereas before, I just dwell in that, and that's a bad place to be.
Saying that, you have talked to me a lot about in the past around your headspace, where you're at, everything that happens in our lives. We talk about it through our highs, through our lows, and there's always a discussion point around it, no matter how uncomfortable it might feel sometimes. How do you feel you've been able to communicate to me? Because I feel like I am one of your biggest, well, I'd like to say I'm one of your biggest kind of support systems that you have, so you can openly tell me anything and vice versa. How do you think how does that work for you when you share things?
I think if you don't share it with your life partner, then I think you've got the wrong person. That's the way I see it. It's like if I can't share it with you, then who am I going to share it with? And there's probably a big red flag if that's the case. Like I should be able to tell you everything, and I do. Yeah. So that really makes it quite easy. And I think if I look back, I was telling you stuff from date one. Yeah. Which is a bit weird. Like I wasn't doing that with any other dates I went on before. So I think there's that element of like, if you can't tell your life partner, who can you tell? And again, it comes back to the whole thing of like, if you rush into a relationship, or you're in a relationship you don't want to be in. And I've been in them in the past. It's the worst place to be because like, who you are, who you're with is such an important decision you make. And if you're with the wrong person, then it's going to reduce your quality of life quite significantly.
I agree. And you just mentioned our first date. I remember it so vividly. We were there and things got really deep. We were talking about everything, our goals, the business, just everything. And I'd never experienced that before. And I came out of it on a real high. And we were the last ones in the restaurant, like the cleaners were there cleaning up. And we were just like, oh, we need to go now. And I knew then that this is it for me. I'd been dating for a very long time. And I knew then, I was like, this is it. This is you. This is the guy. This is the one. Yeah. So I'm glad you asked me on a second date. The next day, might I add.
I think I was very clear on what I wanted as well. Yes. So, I was like, I'm not going to compromise on this part of my life, because in the past I had bad relationships. So I learned a lot from that. And I was like, you know what? I'm never going to do that again. So this is exactly what I want. This is what I'm looking for. And if it doesn't hit that, it's not on the cards.
And what were the things? I remember them, but just for this podcast.
So the three were independence. And what I mean with that is like, I think the way I see a relationship is you've got two people who are already running their race. But when they come together, magic happens. But if one's running a race and the other person's like running the other way, or like just doing nothing, then I think nothing happens when they come together, because they can't function without each other. I think you want to be a team. You want to have it so when you come together, everything's amazing. But if you aren't independent and you aren't secure in yourselves, I think that's what it is. Probably like secure, like not insecure. If you're secure in yourself, it makes for a much healthier relationship, I found. Because I have dated in the past where the other person was very insecure, and that makes for a very difficult relationship because they become very needy of you. Whereas if you're both secure, it makes for a much healthier relationship because you communicate better. You just operate more effectively. So that was one. That was the top one. Second one was ambitious. And then you asked me about this the other day, like, what does that actually mean? Like, looking back, I think what I was looking for was just growth. People that want to grow on the journey. So like when I said to you, I don't think you should continue working in a corporate career. Like that's quite an antagonizing thing to say to someone quite early on, right?
Yeah.
But I think because I saw like your potential of what your life could be, and I was like, you know what, if you're growth oriented, you'll probably lean into it. So I think it was more like growth, like someone who's willing to grow and change, and sorry, change is not the right word. Change their opinions or their life trajectory. Like I've changed my life trajectory as well.
Yeah, adapt.
So adapt is probably the best way. Yeah, change
yeah.
is not the right word to use there. So growth oriented, and then the third one was look after their health.
Yeah.
I think I'd find it strange, given my profession, my values, for someone who just didn't care about their health and fitness. Doesn't mean I need to be with a fitness freak, which is actually what I didn't want.
Yeah, I remember you saying.
Because then they're obsessed. They're not actually enjoying their health. So I just wanted someone who looks after themselves, because I think that says a lot about you as a person. If you look after your health and fitness and you pay attention to that part of your life.
I remember that conversation as well. So that's good. And we are complete opposites. Our personalities are very, very different. I'm more extroverted, you're more introverted. What do you think makes us work well?
Yeah, I think, so one of my favorite books is Way a Superior Man, and he talks a lot about the masculine energy and feminine energy. And I think one of the reasons why we complement well is you are very much feminine energy dominant, I'm masculine energy dominant, so it comes together really, really nicely. I find I get my sense of fulfillment from like living a purposeful life. You get your fulfillment from like lots of love. So it complements very, very nicely. And I think that combination with really strong communication, I think works well.
I remember we had a conversation with some of our couple friends who I think have like nailed couple life.
Yeah.
And they asked the question around, when's been the most kind of growth orientated period for you? And I remember looking back and thinking, oh, well, I was traveling in my 20s, doing independent travel by myself. And I feel like I grew the most because I was learning so much. I was surrounded by different people, different cultures, traveling by myself, going through all these experiences. Then actually, when we had the discussion, I realized actually the most growth orientated period of my life was when we got together.
Yeah.
I feel like we really help each other grow. We support each other. Call each other out on each other's bullshit.
Well, I think also like I think you understand like what I'm like. So for example, I don't really like going to lots of events, social events, networking events, family events, whatever it may be. And sometimes I don't even know that they've happened, but you just told me you said no on my behalf. And I think that's that says a lot, because I'm just like I've got no desire to go to that event. And that sort of stuff is very hard to come by, because sometimes you can be forced into these things. You have to do it through obligation. That creates a lot of resentment. And because you're doing things you don't want to do, you start begrudging the other person because you got to go to their thing. Whereas I think you're like, well, I know this guy doesn't want to go to it. I'll only go to the important stuff, right? The stuff that you think is genuinely worth me going to. That's not an ego thing either. It's not me saying, oh, I'm only going to things that are important. It's more a case of just like, I just want to protect my energy. And I only want to do things that make like a good use of my time. And again, it's not in a state of, I'm better than going to this event. It's more just like, it comes back to that life by design. Like you can spend all your life just going to events. There's always an event going on. So I think you say no to pretty much everything for me, bar like the one or two things you think I should definitely go to. And that really helps. It just keeps me like doing what I enjoy, because I'm more of an introvert and you're more extrovert. So you enjoy going to a lot of these things. Whereas for me, if I go to it, I feel exhausted afterwards.
Yeah, the whole socializing, small talk, everything. And I know that about you. And I don't ever want to put you in that uncomfortable position or force you into doing something. So I love like just being like, okay, well, I know that this isn't going to work for him. This will work for him. At the same time, when two families merge, you coming into my family, me coming into yours, there's always something happening, especially with such a big friends circle between us both, as well as family circle between us both. There's pretty much an event every single week.
Yeah.
And there's something going on which I sometimes don't even go to because I think, you get exhausted throughout the week. Like I'm looking after Sia, I'm trying to prioritize myself, balance us, juggle everything as well as what you're juggling, the business and just your thoughts, your exercise, running, training, all of these things. It can get quite.
Well, most people are living on other people's calendars.
Yeah.
They're just like saying yes to every single thing. And next thing you know, you're like every night you're doing something, every day you're doing something, every week you're doing something. And again, that thing just makes life go very, very quickly. And the next thing you know, you spent a year not doing anything with yourself.
Yeah, I mean, we also like to have our own time, like individually as well as just us.
Yeah, I think that's also important. That comes back to
Yeah.
like the security element. That's why I mentioned like security in yourself is really important, because if that's the case, then you're going to feel like the less of a need to go to so much stuff because it fills a gap.
Yeah, that's very, very true. But no, I think that we work well together. Like I didn't think that this kind of connection could exist where I could be so open and I would grow so much as a person. Like I've changed a lot from, I say change, I've adapted so much from where I was, my thinking, even things like going to events. I used to go, when I first moved to London, I think yes, I was single. I think I was working, I'd come home straight from work and then go into Central most evenings. And I think to myself, I must have been so exhausted. Like, how did I even do that? And now I think, actually, I need time to myself. Like, I like having my downtime. I like kind of reflecting. And these things are important to me. And that's how I've grown, like having my own personal space, enjoying time with you. Because although we live together, we don't always have that quality time, right? We're kind of seeing each other in passing, and then Sia is there running around. So we're kind of giving her the attention. So it's not always intentional time for us unless we make it like that.
Yeah.
So I really value that time that we have. It's both of our love languages, number one, right? Quality time.
Yeah.
So you mentioned the 5 phases of RNT. Everyone goes through the phases, and the final phase is called the reward phase.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's something that you talk about. Not many people kind of get there. It's like the area that's like, ooh, the bit that you want to get to, but it's just a little out of reach. You just got to keep working towards it. Would you say you've reached that phase? And what does it exactly mean?
Yeah, so I've definitely reached it. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to create it. What it is your food, your training, nutrition, the whole thing just becomes automatic. The nutrition's automatic, training's automatic. You don't think about these things. I don't think about what am I going to eat tomorrow? What am I going to eat now? What am I going to have for dinner? We're going out for dinner. I don't even know where we're going, but I'll be fine. I don't have to research the menu beforehand. I don't have to buffer for the day. You bought me some like dark chocolate rice cakes just before this recording because I like them. I'm not going to be like, I'll have to eat these and then cut from tomorrow. Like that sort of stuff doesn't happen. So you effectively get to a point where you can intuitively eat. Now, that word is like thrown around a lot. People say, you should intuitively eat, don't worry about calories, all these things. Now, intuitive eating is a bit of a misnomer because you don't do intuitive eating. You earn it. You earn the ability to intuitively eat, because whilst I am not tracking macros, not weighing my food, it kind of just happens automatically in my head. Like I kind of know when it's too much food. I know when I'm eating too little. I can tell the difference. I know when it's genuine hunger. I know when I'm stuffed. I know when I shouldn't eat more. That kind of thing. These things just happen in my head. So whilst I have no idea what my macros are, my calories are, I kind of know if I'm eating too much or too little. And I know where the sweet spot is. So it's always happening, but that takes a long time to get to. I think people want to skip the gears and they want to get to the reward phase in a year. It doesn't happen like that. And it's not because I haven't found a system that gets you there quicker. I wish I could. It's just, there's just a lot of there's just a lot of things you have to do on the way. So there's a lot of trial and error. You got to figure out what meals you like, what meals you digest well, what meals you can eat on the go. Like, how many rice cakes do you have, dark chocolate rice cakes do you have before it's too much? Like all these things, you got to try it out because I've messed it up as well. I've spent many years messing it up and doing it the wrong way. So you got to figure that out. And also, I think the biggest blocker for people to get into the reward phase is beating emotional and stress eating. Because I'd say so many people use food as a crutch, use food as a vice. And if that's the case, you've got to overcome that in order to actually get to the reward phase. You've got to strip away the reliance on food to get you through stressful situations, to get you through emotional situations, to get you through social occasions, to be able to go to get you through holidays. food has become such a central part of what we do. What we do as a society, but many people use it as a crutch as well. And that has to be the thing to get past in order to get to the reward phase. Because when you are there, you don't worry about these things. I don't actually weigh my food much. I only weigh my carbs, mainly because I don't want to guess. I don't want to guess how many oats I'm having. Probably at this stage of my life, mainly because I don't want to undereat. But I'd say I don't really weigh, apart from oats actually, I don't really weigh many things. And if I'm out and about, I won't really worry about things. And I've got to the point where, I don't really track my calories. I don't track my macros. I barely weigh myself as well, body weight. Again, I weigh myself more not to lose weight, because of all the running I'm doing. So I weigh myself maybe once a week, once every other week. And this is my lifestyle solution, and it's gotten better and better over the years, just as a function of time. And I think people underestimate how long it takes to get there, because of how much you have to try in terms of how you respond to situations. So one of the reasons, for example, why RNT is 1 year long is because I like the idea. Well, it's not. You need to be able to. I don't like the idea of moving. It's more, you need to be able to go through the seasons of life, and you want to be able to go through the Christmas holidays without gorging on food. You need to go through your birthdays, your wife's birthday, your daughter's birthday, your husband's birthday, your son's birthday, the holidays. There's so many different things that happen through the calendar year that if you can go through a whole year of RNT and probably another 2 years, because the first year you'll be spending time losing weight, then you need to figure out how to stay in shape and keep the weight off. You go through enough of these events and seasons of figuring out what to do when. And you're going to mess it up the first time. There's no doubt about it. So when you go through these seasons and you tie up enough accountability around it, and stay consistent with that process of iteration, then you get to the reward phase. And when you're there, it's effortless. It's very effortless. And it won't just happen. It's not one day you just wake up, I'm in the reward phase now. It doesn't happen like that. It's like a dimmer switch. It just you just see yourself finding it easier and easier. And then soon it just becomes easy. And then you have a new identity of someone who just stays healthy and fit very, very relatively easy. And then we're seeing more and more members getting there actually, by the way.
That's good.
And one of the reasons why members don't think they're there sometimes, even they're thinking, am I in the reward phase? It's because we don't wake up one day in the reward phase. You just proven to yourself that you know how to manage food well, you know how to manage your exercise well, and it just becomes part of who you are. You don't go a week without exercising. It's not a thing you do, unless you're taking a week off proactively because of whatever, you run a marathon. You just exercise, you just eat good food, you go for a walk, you sleep well, you drink water. Like, these are just things you do. You don't sit there and keep answering a checklist. But you need to do the checklist at the beginning and for a long time in order to make it part of who you are.
Yeah, it's like the habit building, right? Like, you've learned all that, how to do the habit building, and then
you got to build
eventually
it
just
and
kind
crystallize
of
it.
Yeah, exactly. No, it makes sense. And no, I hardly see you weigh food. Like, you come back from holiday with the same weight. You don't weigh yourself. Like, it's all kind of become life now.
Yeah.
And unless you're doing something like the shred, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
Then when you're
that's a different ballgame though.
Yeah, exactly. And that makes sense. That's like a challenge or goal, an intentional goal that you're doing. So you need to do these things. But just living day-to-day life, I've seen that, and it's really cool. It's just like, okay, like as you said, you have no idea where we're going for dinner tonight. You haven't seen the menu. Yeah. You'll just kind of figure it out.
That's what I want all RNTers to get there. That's the goal, is for RNTers to get there. But they just need to commit the time and the patience to get there. Because most of the people we work with, they're over 35, in their 40s, maybe in their 50s, mostly in their 40s. But as a result, they've got decades of bad habits. That's not you can't. If it takes you 12 weeks to walk into the woods, you can't walk back out. If it takes you 12 years to walk into the woods, you can't walk back out in 12 weeks. You need time to do this. So if you just commit the patience and see the longevity in the journey, you can spend 3 years setting yourself up for the next 30. 3 years of figuring out this lifestyle solution, to spend 30 years not worrying about your food. That's amazing. That's amazing ROI.
That is amazing.
That's the vision that I have for all RNT members to get to the reward phase. The caveat is you just got to go through the phases to get there. You can't just go from day one to the reward phase. I wish you could.
No, that makes sense. You got to put in the work to get to reap all the rewards. So that makes sense.
And the analogy to use is, it's like in business. You can't go to the point where you have a team, a systems, processes from day that work, and are proven from day one. You have to build that. You have to get to the point where this sort of stuff is possible. And then when it is, you can enjoy it. And that is like the reward phase.
Yeah, I think you articulated that really well. And I agree, like this is what we want our members to achieve, if not everyone. So thanks for sharing that. And let's just wrap it up now. You've shared a lot on this podcast. And let's now just end on what are you most excited for the year?
Two things. One is new baby.
New baby.
And second is my marathon. I'm really, really excited for it. So last week I ran a 91-minute half marathon. So I've taken 6 minutes off my PB in the last 5 months. The next checkpoint is end of May. I've got another half marathon. That one I'm racing. This one was just the training run, which makes me feel more confident about it. Goal is to get 89 minutes. We'll see. And then August, I need to run an 85-minute half marathon. So I've got nice little checkpoints along the way. And then sub 3 hours in Valencia. So I'm really excited for it. Sometimes I wonder, what am I letting myself into? Because running is not easy. But I'm really enjoying the process. More than I expected, actually.